Lord Vader, what about Leia and the Wookiee?
They must never again leave this city.
That was never a condition of our agreement, nor was giving hand to this bounty hunter.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
So here's something you don't hear every day. My husband and I are spending a year living apart while still being happily married.
Stop dating men who think effort is a luxury. He wants you. Okay, let him put in the work. I don't want to hear any excuses. When a man wants you, he puts in that effort. He puts in the work.
So she respects you, cooks for you every night. Does she clean the house?
Of course.
She cleans the house and you got her working 16 hours a day. That sounds like slavery.
You know, it's been reported that your typical American female, you know, when you add up all the pluses and minuses, your debits and credits, your typical American female will take in excess of $150,000 from the system more than she pays into the system.
The only time I want to hear a man talk to me is when he doing this. And if he ain't doing that, he talking too much.
What no one ever says, though, is then that must mean in some proportion, your typical American, in a zero-sum game, your typical American male is paying in excess of $150,000 more than he's receiving.
It's a sin to give man your money.
So, I mean, and that's in America. You know, and I would say, actually, the typical male is paying greater than the typical American woman because there are more women.
The reason why it's a sin to give men your money is because men have dominancy in masculine energy. Masculine energy is all about doing. It's all about action taking. It's all about initiative, right? And so if you come with a dominancy in that energy, why are you not making any money? Why should I take my money as a feminine woman and give to you?
Than there are men. So, you know, for the women to take 150.
Don't forget they live longer than us, Blackaroo, too.
Well, that's why. That's one of the reasons why they pay more, because they do. They get more because they do live longer, and they're a drain on the system for a longer period of time in their life.
Number two is that men have a head start, a long head start before us women. Too long ago, we just get the right to vote, to own a bank account, and to work. And so if they have a head start, shouldn't they have more money than us, right? Shouldn't we be the one who's asking them for money and not the other way around?
You add in the periods of them being unemployed and all the myriad social systems from which they benefit at the, state, county, municipal, of course, federal level. So yeah, your typical woman is going to take a lot more from the system than her actual earnings will generate.
The only time I want to hear a man talk to me is when he doing this.
This deal is getting worse all the time.
0.8 million women in their 30s and 40s, 17.176%, or 1.38 million are single. Now, in the 21st century, marriage is no longer a necessity, but rather an option, and many women choose to remain single. Yet, there is not enough social security for them, creating a blind spot of the structural system. A recent survey conducted by the Seoul Metropolitan Government on women in their 40s and 50s living alone, only 36.9% responded that they were preparing for old age. Also, 81.2% of them answered that they were unable to prepare for their later years because they couldn't afford to do so. But there's barely any governmental support for them. Outside the welfare system, single women have to find their own means to secure their futures, and they're calling on a change in the family-centered social policies.
Because the tax system, welfare policies, and even the medical insurance system are designed for families, they alienate unmarried women and single-person households. Therefore, our society needs to find ways to embrace and support them rather than merely trying to treat the symptoms.
I'll begin by saying that I believe that one of the purposes of government is in society to protect the weak, the young people, the pregnant people, the pregnant women, the elderly people, the sick, people that are in situations where they are going to benefit from society because they're just in a less privileged position. But as the last 50 years have been a pronounced change in gender dynamics and expectations, one thing I think is very important for us to remember is that the simple math says if men are living 5, 6, 10 years less than women, and men are on average working more hours, and men are getting less government support, then there is a net flow of resources in one particular direction. And for me, as a Gen Xer, it's not that big of a deal for me because I expect that as part of the social contract. But what happens when the generations coming after me are starting to question that contract, especially when young ladies sound like this?
It's a sin to give man your money.
If you want to still deal with these men and you want to get back into the dating world, you should have no shame or guilt in whatever you do to them.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out how is it more difficult to survive in a marriage versus that of two separate households.
My husband and I are spending a year living apart while still being happily married.
It's not, but it has nothing to do with nothing to do with survive.
So then what are we really talking about here? What's the real issue?
Women got to remember, people think marriage is a sacred thing. Okay, maybe it is. Really the village, the group or the village is a sacred thing, not the individual marriage.
Reading the comments underneath the video of the two gentlemen talking about if your wife is working an 8-hour job and then coming home and doing housework, that she's essentially doing 16 hours of work every day, and that is akin to slavery, there was an overwhelmingly supportive response. Back in the day, my mom's aunties was getting their husband's whole paycheck. These new age men could never. Yes, 16 hours is slavery, no matter how you put it. Pound sad, but true. Love this. Yes, women work 16 hours a day, clean the house, cook, take care of the kids. Modern day slavery. She's got another child, suggesting that men are a burden to housewives. But there is a time where men did this because the social support network outside of the home wasn't there. And either it was your community that was going to look out for you, or it's going to be your husband. And so the need of the husband to basically be the provider was there, because otherwise it was going to be you or your husband or the people that cared about you, and not, as you heard earlier spoken about, the government, a larger entity that's going to make sure that as a large group of people, and the higher percentage of those people paying more into that system are men, pay into that system, the people on the other side who fall in hard times or are single mothers or just live longer are going to be overwhelmingly women. And so if that continues, then at some point, at least there should be some sort of appreciation to men that they're paying more into the system to keep it afloat. Because if it doesn't, then younger men are just simply going to have a response that you're going to hear here.
What did y'all think about them? Well, y'all were going through it. The fact that they really try to get the government to subsidize their single asses.
You haven't seen this before. Interesting. DEI, anybody?
So
all this other kind? Yeah, of course.
What the thing is, if you're not able to become rich, and you're not going to partner up with somebody to get some type of benefits, if you're not going to go to school to, because all these things are choices. I could have furthered my education more than what I've done. So could have everybody else. You can have multiple degrees. You don't have to have one. If you ain't going to do what it takes to make sure you're good when you're old, that's a you thing. So that's why when I see stuff like this, I have a hard time identifying what the problem is. A person made a choice to be in a certain situation. Let them be in their situation. And if it don't come out well, that's their thing. Why should I worry about it?
Because you're a man, okay?
Yep.
I'm sure that there are some who wonder about why I have the moniker that I have in PassportOG, and why I don't speak more specifically about where to go to get certain types of young ladies and all those types of things. And that can actually be answered in a conversation I'm going to be having with Big Discussions approximately 12 hours from this video, which is going to be linked in the description. But what's interesting from my point of view is not necessarily where you go to meet young ladies, but the mindset that we're carrying abroad and being prepared for what we're going to face abroad. Because the truth of the matter is, and it was spoken about in the video with Mr. Z Black in Effect, the seeds of what young men are maybe fleeing away from or maybe having difficulty dealing with have already been planted everywhere around the world. There are different environments where young ladies have watched Hannah Montana, which they discussed at length in Mr. Z's video, which I highly suggest you go and watch. If you're thinking that you're going to go somewhere overseas and just have a reset to the 1980s, you're sadly mistaken. Because if you don't have a plan for dealing with how you're going to date any young lady, wherever you are, in any environment, then you're going to end up most likely repeating a mistake that you probably did not foresee yourself making.
All I'm saying is at some point, we got to realize everything cannot be negotiated. There's just some factors of life you can't negotiate your way out of.
You said they'd be left in the city under my supervision.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Sometimes you guys are a little too upset with black women. And I say that because we tend to view a lot of what's going on as a negative thing about black women, about the behavior of black women, about the actions of black women.
So it's none of your business, frankly.
I mean, it is.
No, it's not.
I mean,
are you a black woman? We confirm.
Hold on. As black men, look, hold on. So
there it is.
As black men or as black women prefer to date black men most of the time. So if you're dating a black man, how come you don't care about his preference?
I have a question. What do black men tend to date most of the time?
Hold on, but I'll answer yours, but answer mine first.
No, I asked you. I'll answer yours.
Okay.
Repeat your question one more time. Go ahead.
What these videos show is black women are just on the far end of a curve that all women are on.
Yeah,
They're sort of at the head of the wave.
Yeah, well,
if you look at Asia, if you look at parts of Africa, certainly parts of Central and South America, you know, this zombie feminist gynocratic virus is spreading everywhere.
It's not even a virus. It's not even a virus.
To deal with this both internally but well as logistically, you know, maybe you should be a little less emotionally affected by what you see happening.
I mean,
and
they have
as BGS notes, you know, just focus on the structural thing.
One of the reasons I feel compelled as a content creator to continue to make content is because I think it is only fair to make sure that when people are making decisions that they have information that is current, that is up to date. And if a young man is trying to date in 2025 like it's 1960, and he's trying to be the sole breadwinner, and he is dating a woman who went to college, and she's essentially saying, your money is my money and my money is my money, and then she wants to do things like live in separate houses, or saying that she's never going to give her husband any money because women don't do such things, it's just not conducive to having any kind of healthy relationship. There has to be a new contract. In fact, as Vader said,
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
There are some that might say that this is a very difficult time to be a guy, but I would say that if you can get past the emotionality of maybe things not being the way they used to be and accept that we're in a new age and therefore a new paradigm needs to be adopted when men negotiate relationships, home or abroad, then it's an exciting time as a man because you understand that the rules are going to essentially be rewritten. And this is where compassionate and callous cooks.
No, I just want to say what Uru said earlier, which is I think what might be more valuable of use of our intellect in this as this think tank of this space going forward is what we should probably think about what type of social contract we can form amongst black men to navigate this new environment. Because essentially, what's going to happen with the women is they're going to either sink or swim. You're gonna have a lot of them begging and pleading, and how black men associate and Congress going forward, I think is gonna be crucial rather than trying to navigate a bunch of desperate ass females, because that's essentially what's gonna end up happening. It's gonna be a bunch of reaching back. So how black men, how we commune with each other, and what bylaws and cultural norms we develop going forward, I think is going to be an interesting topic we need to put some energy into.
As always, I have to give what seemingly is my weekly salute to the wonderful panels that Mr. Z in effect is having on the weekends. And I think it's one of the most important congregating spaces for Black men, probably on the internet. And I'm going to continue to respond to this particular group of conversations because it's pertinent to not just guys that are in the States that are trying to deal with the changing environment. It's apropos to all of us, Black men in our case, going overseas because of the mindset that we're carrying with us. If guys think that they're going to get off an airplane and they're going to step into the 1960s, they are absolutely incorrect. There's actually a point in the panel where they're talking about Hannah Montana and the effect that it had on young ladies and what they want out of relationships. Hannah Montana is on Disney Plus. It is translated into over 50 languages. So if a young woman grew up watching that as a young girl, some of the effects that it had on expectations for young ladies in the States have been replicated in other places around the planet. Guys have to understand going into relationships that that's going to be part of it. And so you have to go into the relationship with your set of terms, almost as if you're Vader on Cloud City. These are my terms, and I can change the terms because the environment is not the same that it was 70, 80, 100 years ago when young ladies were expecting men to be sole providers. If you went to college, if you're formally educated, you can do more than just be a homemaker, especially in an age where we have robot vacuum cleaners, things on Bluetooth that can start cooking items when you're at work, and you can send your clothes to be clean around the block. Instead, if a young lady's saying, well, I can help you with your business, or I could be a part of what you're doing here, that's part of the new contract, the new way that men are going to pair with young ladies, home or abroad. And I think that that is something that men, passport bros or guys that stay behind, have to come to grips with. Young ladies overseas have had the internet. They've watched Ally McBeal, they've watched Friends, they've watched Disney Plus, and many of them have the same, if not more, expectations than the ladies they're leaving behind. So understand when you're going where you're going, make sure that you have a set of things that you're willing to negotiate and a negotiating place where you're willing to walk away from the table. Because if you're not, you're just going to replicate what you're running away from. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. Catch you next video. Take care, guys.